Hey guys, this is Kevin from News Rocky coming to you live from the downtown Norwich studio, Forward Television, bringing you the News Rocky show each and every day, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. On today's show, we're going to talk about some of the current events going on in this nation. We're going to talk about Washington, D.C. The insiders' games that are going on today seem to be very much like they were of yesteryear during the Barack Obama administration. In fact, it seems like Joe Biden himself is bringing the same old team back together again. We'll be talking about that and several other topics on the News Rocky Show today, drilling down on the news of the day, trying to get to the bottom line for you, the News Rocky fans. Guys, we'll see you back in the ring in a few. Hey guys, it's Kevin back on the News Rocky Show here, talking today about the current events going on throughout this nation, especially down in Washington, D.C. So much to be talking about today. Obviously, we could go right down the laundry list of topics that the Democratic now control party out of the presidency with Joe Biden, the Congress with Nancy Pelosi, and the Senate with Chuck Schumer. There is policies being made each and every day to take further control away from the Republican Congress and Senate and future, quite honestly, in this impeachment trial that is being prepared by this Democratic control policymakers. Let's talk about the impeachment process just for a moment. What do you think the impact will be if this process goes through? Do you have a feeling that maybe the Congress and the Senate have put together a good enough case to convict then 45th president, no longer president, but sitting on the sidelines, Donald Trump? Do you think they're going to make the case to actually prosecute him under the charges at hand? It's very interesting. If you guys saw within the last 48 to 72 hours, former President Donald Trump has released his original attorneys. We're going to fight this for him in the Senate hearings. He is now, understandably, that he has now acquired new attorneys. And one of the things that they're bringing up is they are actually going to bring up that the President of the United States, like every American citizen, has First Amendment rights, meaning that most of the content for which the Senate and the House, under Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, have put together, that this president incited this riot that took place, coordinated an effort to bring people to Washington, D.C. to storm the Capitol. It's a heavy climb for the Democrats. It's a heavy policy controversy because the First Amendment right that Donald Trump threw out is going to be an obstruction right out of the box. I wonder what you think about that and your thoughts on the impeachment trials of Donald Trump. I personally feel this is more about politics, more about the efforts of the Democratic control party to make an attempt to never allow this individual to run for president again. I want to warn the Democrats. I want to tell you that you're making a grave mistake. And what that is, really simply, is you're going to agitate the 74 plus million Americans who did come out and support legally Donald Trump. You're going to upset the people across this country, 74 plus million Americans, who are going to look at this as just another political stunt by you, Nancy Pelosi, and yes, Chuck Schumer. Joe Biden, you have an opportunity. In my opinion, you and Kamala Harris should do the right thing. Get out in front. If you talk about unity, Mr. Biden, President of the United States, 46, then get out in front of this. In fact, get out in front of it to the point where you unify us as Americans. Take the step now. Stop wasting the taxpayers' money. Stop wasting the time of Congress and Senate. Stop wasting the energy that seems to be exhausted into destroying the Republican Party. It will not work for you. The Democrats will end up losing. My prediction, quite honestly, is regardless if this happens or not, the Democrats have set themselves up for a 2024 demolishing. I'm going on the record now and stating that there will not be a Democrat elected to the presidency in 2024. I don't care if it's Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. I don't believe a Democrat will be able to win for several more terms because of their actions. My warning isn't just to satisfy my conservative viewers or my conservative views. My warning is because the democracy at hand that we have is being jeopardized. Yes, because your energy, Democrats, your energy is all about one thing: vengeance. It's not about conviction of fact or doing thorough investigations. Look back on this impeachment process. Look back when it started. Less than a week after this tragic event that every American, including Donald Trump, then President of the United States, condemned. Every American said this was wrong. It should not have happened. Every American did not support and have denounced any of the evildoers that were there. I myself have gone on the record several times. Arrest each and every individual involved. Put them in prison. Make examples of them. This past week, we laid to rest one of the police officers from the Capitol who was killed during this violent insurgent. And let's face it, folks, police officers across this country, they've been put in a position through this last summer under the George Floyd Black Lives Matters movement into a compromised position. Across this country, we lose police officers on a daily basis, it seems, where they're being attacked and assassinated just for being law enforcement officers. And guess who's carried the water for that conversation over the last year plus? Yes, the Democratic Party. This goes back to then Barack Obama under his presidency in 2014. We bring this up quite often because it's important to know the history. But the interesting part about this entire process is, think about this. Over the history of the United States, there's never been a president that has been impeached through this process. This impeachment is not just questionable, it's unconstitutional. It's actually unconstitutional to the point that the Democrats are using the fact that there's not case study to proceed forward. This should alarm each and every one of us as Americans. Why? Because quite honestly, it's an example of the party of control. Now, you could say today as a Democrat that you support this, but let me ask you to take pause. Think about it for a moment. Think about if you were on the other side. Think about if the shoe was sitting on the other foot. Think about if the Republicans were in total control, like back in 2016. You didn't see then President Donald Trump kicking the door down of the Democrats. Sure, he passed policy. Sure, he went through the executive power branch of government, which is approved under the Constitution for a president. Sure, he did things that just typical presidents do, moving the policies along, changing the bad policies. Now, today, we see a president who's sitting in office, sweeping through many policies that were made through the Trump administration. That is his purview. I can't change that, neither can you. We shouldn't put energy into trying to attempt to change that because that is what's going to happen. I've been saying it for months now. Donald Trump is the best choice for president in 2016. He served our country well, and he's probably the number one candidate in 2024. This is why this impeachment hearing is so important to the Democrats in Washington, D.C. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, so please comment. Give me some feedback on that conversation while we kind of move along on some of the other top news being covered in this week. And let's look at one of the appointees, which I find quite interesting. As I opened and said, we're bringing all the team back together again, the former Obama administration, and connected party players. John Kerry, for example, now is going to be the czar of climate. This climate czar position is quite interesting. It really plays right into the AOC version of the Big Green Deal. The Big Green Deal was something that, if you remember, Joe Biden couldn't fully embrace publicly, but privately it's quite obvious that he did. Why is that easy to say? Look at the moves he's made since day one. Taking on the drilling and fracking industry, putting people out of work in this country, on the thousands and thousands of workers who have been on these pipelines, working, raising families, paying taxes, and participating in the economy. They are now out of work. Why? Because Joe Biden's mission is to go green. Why? Because I think the opinion of News Rocky is Joe Biden cut a deal with AOC during this campaign and election. I think that's why there's a little less noise towards Joe Biden from that side of the aisle. We're going to have to see how this plays out with our good friend John Kerry. Again, guys, we keep seeing this one theme. We see people coming back from previous positions as senators or appointees and cabinet members from previous administrations. You see the former Rice is back in the team with Joe Biden. There's just a plethora of people who keep on coming back. The names are resurfaced and repurposed. But for what reason? Because it's easier to be surrounded by the folks that already know the lies than to introduce the lies to others and new ones. That's the problem. You see, this entire corrupt system, including Kamala Harris and any of the other Democrat-controlled people, Mitch McConnell, I'm going to go right on down the list. Because you know what it comes down to, folks? Republicans and Democrats, they both are guilty of corruption. The corruption that's taken place in Washington, D.C. for years is now coming to a head. And we're going to sit back, grab some popcorn, you Republican conservatives, because there's nothing you can do right now other than watch and complain. You can complain all you want. Kick the dog. Turn the TV off. Stop going on social media, because I'm going to forewarn you, you're going to get more agitated, because not only is the policies changing for the big Green Deal, are we going to see our gas prices go up and our oil prices increase? They already have, folks. They already have dramatically since this president's taken office, President Biden. We also have seen our energy costs going up throughout the country. The cost of goods and services are going to go up as well. The policies that are being reverted under this administration are totally turning back the page on the Donald Trump. The interesting part about that is you tie it back into that impeachment process we opened with. Is this all for a reason? Is this all for the same old good politics in Washington, D.C. reasons, which is total control, and total control by whom? I don't just think it's Republicans that have tried to attempt to take control of this country. I think Democrats and Republicans. Whenever we have the opportunity to be in a control seat, it seems like this is the facts that happen. We start to destroy each other. We start to weaken the democracy. We start to change our laws of the land to cater to and create opportunities for our own personal gain. Party gain, that is. The Democrats currently have policies that they're putting forward. Do you guys know in Washington, D.C., obviously Washington, D.C. is not considered a state. Under our Constitution, it was for purpose by our founding fathers. Today, there is a major movement going on for an overturn of that. Why? Do they want to recognize Washington, D.C.? Not as much as being a state, but to add 2 more senators to the Democratic ticket. That is correct. There would be 2 senators appointed to Washington, D.C. What does that really do? Think about the shift in power. 2 more senators added. We're at a 50-50 split today currently in Washington politics in the Senate. If you had 2 more, that is a majority, obviously. A majority there, a majority in Congress, and the presidency, a Democrat. Guys, think about your future. Those Democrats that are listening, I want you to understand one thing. I'm talking as much about Democratic control as Republican control. I would not advocate for Republicans to be in total control of this. I wouldn't advocate for Republicans to push forward 2 more senators out of the state of Texas, for example. Let's say that the state of Texas, for some reason, divides into 2 states. Somehow that happens. I wouldn't be fighting for these causes, because that shift of power is total control. That will create the anarchy that was suspected to happen under this attack on the Capitol under Donald Trump's administration. Unfortunately, folks, the finger pointing that goes on in Washington, D.C. has gotten tiresome. The tiresome part of this finger pointing comes down to the simple fact that the people in D.C., the insiders, the Biden family right on down, and quite frankly, I think Barack Obama is sitting on the sidelines helping manage the government by proxy through his now president of the United States and former Vice President Joe Biden. I think Kamala Harris has a big play here. I think she's the go-between the Senate and the Congress, and especially in the socialist movement of AOC and Bernie Sanders and the rest of the good fellows over there fighting for that socialist future in the United States. I don't personally feel that the future of the United States of America has any fit for a socialist world. I don't believe that we have any opportunity for socialism to be the commanding voice of the people of this great country. I don't think the people of this country want to put their guns down. I don't think the people of this country want to put their rights down. I don't think the people of this country want government telling you what to do. But think about this for a moment, folks. As we talk about all these really important topics, these news articles of the day, think about what's going on in Washington, D.C. as we speak. Right now, currently, if you were to walk around the Capitol, you would see a major fence wrapping the entire Capitol. You would see then military presence throughout the entire Capitol. Not ever in the history of my knowing or paying attention at my 51 years on Earth, being a proud American, do I recall such a sight for any American. This is alarming. This is concerning. Our country has now almost been militarized. And the military being utilized by the Democrats is actually laughable, because the Democrats over the history of this country have tried to dissolve the military, water down law enforcement, and put away those constitutional rights of those gun owners. You see, the bottom line at the end of the day, the control party politicians now have the keys. They're trying to keep the rest of us out for a reason. What do you think that reason is? Quite honestly, because we are seeing exactly what's going to be our future. And they know across this great country, there's many patriots who are starting to really talk about what do we do? How do we handle? How do we react to this? Let me first and foremost say, violence is not the answer. Violence is not what we should be doing. It should not have happened at the Capitol that day. The News Rocky Show covered that Capitol event. We had callers from the Capitol on the ground in Washington, D.C. that day talking about this amazing experience, sharing in an experience with other patriots and Americans in a nonviolent, passive way, exercising their First Amendment rights. And upon that same day, evildoers came through. Have you seen the FBI release, the early release information, that there certainly was enough evidence indicating that not only that certain members of Congress and the Senate and the Capitol Police know about this possible attack, they also know that these were pre-planned attacks. Hence back to the claim of the impeachment process for Donald Trump. It is going to be very difficult when the FBI themselves acknowledge that this has been an organized event when they cannot connect the dots to Donald Trump in that effort. Guys, this is all about game playing in Washington, D.C. It is all about the same old games that we've always seen. I don't care if it's Senator McConnell, as I said, Mitt Romney, or any of the other folks who are down in Washington, D.C. It's the same old game each and every day. Now, one of the issues that I think that we have to closely monitor is stacking of the courts. Have you guys been paying attention to this? The stacking of the courts is something that is definitely on Joe Biden's list. But if you remember back in those debates, back in those interviews, 6 or 7 that he took, or maybe 4. I don't think he had too many interviews. He pretty much stayed in his basement during this past campaign. But a couple of times he was asked, are you going to stack the court? And he was very diplomatic in his answers. And if you listen to his responses each and every time, he didn't say no and he didn't say yes. A typical political move, a typical politician, especially a savvy one with 48 plus years of telling lies. So we have this now president who is really sitting here in the control seat where we are the indications for us, meaning the American people, is that there is definitely an attempt to stack the court. They have the votes, folks. They have the Democratic votes in the House and Senate. Now, there is some proposals out there of maybe a opportunity to stop and obstruct. In fact, I think Marco Rubio recently offered some amendments, and possibly this constitutional amendments that could be offered in regards to this could be a stop safe, in a sense, to the stacking of the court. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that I think this is all but a done deal. I want to warn you Americans today, the News Rocky Show is telling you, you will have more Supreme Court appointees setting off unbalancing the current number 9. So they will extend the Supreme Court and probably out to 11. And you'll see this happen under the Biden administration. This is a plan ultimately for long-term control by the Democratic Party. I warn the Democratic Party once again, this is the wrong move. You're going to awaken a giant in the American people who will not be happy, that are frustrated already currently, but are still feeling like there's chances of hope for a future. I don't think the average American who supported Donald Trump has any belief that he's going to go back in the White House until he might be elected in 2024. The average American believes that the Constitution is being toyed with because of party control. The average American is sick and tired of the policymakers across the board, historically, taking advantage of the American people's vote each and every time. You know, Congress and Senate and presidents, governors, senators, House members, local mayors, council members, when you're elected to office by the people, the priority you should put in front of your own wants are the people's. The people are the ones that tell you what to do. And you see, I hear constantly from the folks on the Democratic side that the people of this country wanted this. The people of this country were denied their fair vote. The claim still stands that there was some corruption in this past election. What's that mean? Calling out corruption? Well, in the case of Congresswoman Green, you call out corruption and you completely get the corporate media attack coming down, raining harder than a Iraqi siege during the Middle East war Schwarzenegger. These are the issues that we have out here, guys. The fact of the matter is we're seeing Democrats taking shots at every Republican who stands up, almost like whack-a-mole, right? You see a Republican set up and they get up and they want to say something, whack-a-mole, right? They take them down. They take them down. They don't want to allow any energy to happen. But Democrats, I want you to listen. You're failing to understand. Your efforts are going to fail. You're going to inspire Americans to stand up. You're going to inspire Americans to say enough is enough. And by the way, I've not only been talking to people of other races who are huge conservative supporters. I'm not only talking to people on the Republican ticket who have left the party, gone to independent, but still think conservatively, but I'm talking to more and more Democrats each and every day. Democrats that actually voted for Donald Trump. Actually, we're putting together a future show, folks, on News Rocky, where we're going to have actual Democrats who voted for Trump and Republicans who voted for Biden. We're going to put together that cast, and we're going to bring this to you as a discussion. I think it's going to be a really interesting one to see exactly what makes someone, motivates someone who represents a different party go with a different candidate. Speaking on this, Congresswoman Green, do you guys understand what this really means? This really means it's a Congress and the Senate who are elected officials across the board. No one has a full-time job. Well, Nancy Pelosi thinks she does. She thinks she's permanent staff there, and she's been proven. Her district puts her back there no matter what she does. Her district doesn't care. They vote for her. They're affluent, rich. I think they call them liberal limousines or limousine liberals is the actual title for those folks out in California. California, one of the worst run states in the country. But Nancy Pelosi keeps coming back because she's been given the control. And see, control is everything. You know, when you build more control, you have more confidence. You eventually start to ignore the need and desire to hear everyone's voice. Now, maybe some can say that Donald Trump himself caused some of this. And I can agree. Some of the ways he handled things in his conversations, not only with the media, which I still stand behind him 100%. Corporate media, we're going to get into you in a moment here on the News Rocky Show as we're going through current events of the day. But I think Donald Trump himself could have been a little more, chose his words a little better when it came to dealing with other politicians, policies, foreign affairs, and such. But I do also think that he came onto the scene during a time when the country needed a break away from the typical old politics. Interesting enough, he did his 4 years, and he comes out where this landslide of an election, Joe Biden wins. Joe Biden won by more votes than Barack Obama. Do you really, really believe that? I don't think that's true, and I don't think you think it is either. But that's a case that we can't win. You see, under this former president, Donald Trump, we had plenty, the New York mayor, the American mayor, Rudy Giuliani, pushing this forward. Rudy Giuliani is he seems like more of a Saturday Night character to me, just kind of like all slumped in shoulders and, his wet voice and everything. And he's been around politics for a long time. Great conservative guy, quite honestly. I think a showman. I think Donald Trump purposely had a showman representing him during the process because I don't think the evidence was there. Now, I know a lot of you folks who are Republicans, conservatives, you're going to send me some really dirty emails and text messages, and that's okay. You can be mad at me. I'm not arguing whether or not I wanted Donald Trump. I just would say to you that things could have been handled differently. Now, I want to give an observation on why I think that that's important. You see, we almost, as Republicans and conservatives, people who supported Donald Trump, each and every day, we get attacked still today. If we bring up anything positive about his presidency, or anyone like Congresswoman Green, or any of the other, Crimshaw, you can bring up any of the political Jordan, we can Jim Jordan, who's getting attacked daily. We see Republican conservatives who are out in other positions now being under attack for a variety of reasons. So the all-out attack on Republicans across this country is being inspired by what? Party control. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, the Clintons, Kerry, Spicer, Rice, we could get Emmanuel. We can keep going down the list, guys. They're all coming back around this opportunity because, think about it. This is the opportunity to seize. If you're a Democrat and your vision of the world is only one party control, you can now destroy the evil empire of the Republicans. that was led by a non-Republican Donald Trump. You know, there's been a lot of speculation, folks, that the people on this mission to destroy the Republicans and the conservatives, they're more socialist. So you Democrats who are in the middle, I think they like to call yourselves, Kennedy Democrats. I hear that quite often. I find that to be an interesting statement. What is a Kennedy Democrat? Is a Kennedy Democrat someone who would vote politics one way only? Or is a Kennedy Democrat someone who had understood that the economy is driven by what? By us, the American people. We need to be back in work and not locked down. Why are we still locked down? Because of bad policies. Can Donald Trump hold a little bit of this? I'm sure he can. Does Fauci have the best interest of this country? I don't know. But I do know one thing. You can look a fact up. Fauci is the only person in the history of this country who has sat in the White House more than any other human being or American ever. Think about it. Almost 9 administrations he's worked with. Who's in control? Think about it. Almost 9 administrations. Fauci's been sitting on that couch, advising president after president. The one president that pushed back, the entire system rallied around. And they wanted to destroy Donald Trump. Now, I'm telling you that I understand why. Donald Trump's louder than life. He's a big, loud guy. But you know what? He talked about simple things that the Democrats don't know how to articulate. The only division that I hear from the Republican Party is the division of socialism, the division of taking the rights of the people away. The division I hear from Democrats are, if you think different than I, then you are anti-American. If you don't support Black Lives Matters, period, and denounce the racial divide in this country by unfunding police and law enforcement, then you're wrong. That's the message from the Democrats. Guys, we have to say enough is enough. Democrats, I appeal to you, change the narrative, change the story, and change the leadership. And Republicans, we need to do the same thing. It is time across this great country that we look at term limits. The term limit issue that we talked about time and time again, not just on the News Rocky Show, but across this country, it always seems to be talked about during elections. It always seems to be talked about when you end up, seeing a new candidate running. But now we have someone like Senator Cruz. Senator Cruz, by the way, who's also under attack by AOC because AOC has now made Senator Cruz guilty in her mind and guilty across the Democratic Socialist Party that he was a part of this insurgents that took control of the Capitol by inspiring them with his rhetoric. See, the control of First Amendment rights is a very slippery slope. Tie it back into what I said about Donald Trump and the original defense he's putting together. If he's able to put together a defense of the First Amendment rights, it is going to put it on standby. In fact, each and every one of us should be worried about where this case goes. We should be worried about the Supreme Court appointments. Why? Quite honestly, we should be worried about 2 additional senators to the Washington, D.C. area. We should be worried about a lot of moves that are going on. The 40-plus executive, probably over 50 now, executive orders, the fastest-paced executive orders out of any presidency in the United States history in their first few weeks in office. Guys, there's a lot of amazing energy going on in Washington, D.C., and it is all for a reason. You see, the reason is simple control. I keep staying on a theme. I want you to listen and learn. The theme is control. We can't allow, we shouldn't allow, we should not support either party's total control of the United States of America, because what that eventually does is destroy America's vision. See, our founding fathers in the inception of this country, and when they set up the policies for our country to live by, they knew that we could not live under a dictatorship. Today, we face a dictatorship more so than ever in the history of this country. Think about it for a moment. Think back in the history of this country when you've seen so much policy change, so much attacks on one other party from another, and supported by whom? The corporate media. The agenda has been drafted, the attack has been planned, and the execution is being done by the corporate media, along with the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C. across this country. Folks, you need to stand up, step up, and push back. And I'm talking to Republicans, Democrats, independents alike. We cannot let Washington, D.C. destroy us, the American people. I'm not quite happy with using some of these words today. I'm not quite happy with saying things that I'm saying. I'm not looking for a division between you and I as Democrats and Republicans, independents, unaffiliated. Quite frankly, I'm looking to get us back together. The word unity has been used recently under this now President Joe Biden. I have not seen much unity being offered. In fact, there was a gathering of several high-ranking senators, more moderate senators. In fact, I think the only senators that were invited were the ones that actually voted in support of the impeachment trial for Donald Trump in the Senate. These were Republicans invited to the White House with Joe Biden. Actually, it's pretty interesting because the comments coming back from the lead senator, McConnell, quite frankly said, look, the bottom line is we think the president's been talking about unity, meaning Joe Biden, but his administration and staff certainly aren't playing that way. Same old Washington, D.C. games. Guys, enough is enough. Now, what do? I think what we do is any team that wants to win needs to do. Sports teams, winning battles over other opponents. Anytime you go against someone that you need to plot a winning victory for, you need to learn from your mistakes. Your first mistake is stop putting the same old political party control people back into Washington, D.C. Stop putting the confidence in the people who have failed each and every time. Let me ask you folks that live out in the liberal, Democratic controlled populated areas throughout this country, do you feel like those lies that have been told to you by administration after administration of Democrats have been coming true? Is your life better because you've had Democratic control representing your voice and your needs? Is the crime rate down in those communities because of this Democratic representation? Do you feel that the public safety or your health has been better attended under Democratic administrations? Can you tell me you have more jobs created under Democratic administrations? Can you tell me that the education system, the failed education system across this country, is doing their part under the Democratic control? You tell me whether or not that's true. You see, if you can defend that, I will sit here and listen. I will listen intently and eagerly to find out what you can tell me to prove otherwise. I know the facts as you do. The Democratic-controlled cities, states across this country are failing. They are going into the red because of bad policies. And now the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, has total control of the destiny of America. What can we do? We need to plan. We need to plan at the local level. I want to make an appeal to you folks that are sitting on the sidelines today, listening to News Rocky, feeling like maybe I'm going to jump into the politics. So let me tell you a little story. One day I had retired back in 2012 at the early ripe age of 42. I retired from the Department of Corrections after doing 21 years. Starting that job at 21 years old, I was able to, or 20 years old, going into that job, learning, living, encouraging myself to never want to make mistakes like these people did. But I had something at the end of the day, which is a retirement. I realized that's a special gift. It was like winning a lotto ticket for me, and I didn't want to waste it. So when I was sitting on my couch after I retired, I didn't know what to do. I was eating ice cream and getting fat. So I decided one day, you know what? I'm sick of the taxes in town. I'm sick of the policies in my hometown where I'm raising my children. I went and got involved. I ran for office the first time. I had never run for office. I've never put my name on a ballot. I ran for office. And you know what happened? I got elected by one vote. One vote won that election as the first selectman. For those throughout the country that might be in areas where you have mayors or city council presidents, this is a similar position. You're the CEO of the town. I won it by one vote. I beat a Democrat in a Democratic stronghold community, a Democratic-controlled community that only had one or two other Republicans in the history of the town. I won by one vote who has never served, made policy in that community. And when I got in there, I changed the entire system around. I had taken advantage of an opportunity to take two-year terms, and do everything I could. And by the way, when I ran for office, I told the constituents who voted and supported me, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and unaffiliated, I'm going to term limit myself. I'm not going to make this a career. You see, because government taxpayer money shouldn't be a career unless it's certain positions. Those positions are like corrections or police or other positions, FBI, as we just lost 2 FBI agents in the state of Florida this past week. These are tough positions that deserve those kind of opportunities, but elected officials should not. You should not be given retirement. You should not be given insurance. You should not be given anything over what the average citizen gets. You see, elected positions are more about what you do and give back to your community. I won that by one vote. The next term I won by getting cross-endorsed by Democrats and Republicans. Do you know why? I didn't change the way I talk that I do today. I was as conservative as I am today, I was then. I stepped up to the plate and I said to people, and I looked them in the eye, we're going to change things, and we did. We changed things for the better. You see, President Donald Trump said that, and he did. But the problem was there were still some of those hands sticking to the edge of control by the Democrats. And they were able to capitalize under some really smart campaigns over the 2020 campaign season, and they won. What do I encourage? My takeaway from today's News Rocky show is to you, the listeners. I want to challenge you to challenge others in your life, in your communities, to step up. Run for office. Run for the Board of Ed. Run for the Board of Finance. Run for a first selectman or mayor. Run for anything that you get involved in your community. Start with your community first, because you see, we talk about all the issues of Washington, D.C., all these big issues that we just highlighted in this show today that are important, impacting issues in our future of our country. But the most impact you'll see is at the local level. Your local taxes, your local services. Take control of your community. Take control of your community, then effort to take control of your state, and then take control of this nation. We can do this if we work together. We need to coordinate and come together as a people. Again, this is not an all call for Republicans. This is for Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. We need to all come together with a common sense goal of a future of this great country, which I love deeply, America. Let me, on this closing statement, say this. I appreciate you tuning in to the News Rocky. I know our content sometimes day-to-day changes. We'll have interviews with folks. Some days we come here and do a rant. Some days we're using all topic. We go live on some events when they're major breaking news. And we also have some other opportunities where we're going to bring in more remote interviews from the street, bringing in the average everyday person and hearing their comments on the topics of the day. But the most important part of what I do each day is trying to build a conversation with you, the listeners, the viewers, and hopefully the fans of News Rocky. It's been overwhelming as your host. I've been unbelievably honored to be here, and I can tell you for certain that I've seen this grow from a few dozen listeners up to hundreds plus thousands. Each and every day we put out this content, we're getting in contact with over thousands of people daily. That's an amazing feeling. We're going to grow this opportunity to a larger scale. You're going to go there with us as News Rocky fans. I'd rather call you team members. So keep contributing. Keep getting involved. Keep offering some information here as the live feed is opportunity for you to talk to me. Send me private messages. Send a message to the News Rocky email. You can find it right on our website. Guys, we want you to be involved in the growth of this program, because this program is not about speaking on behalf of the Republican Party or attacking the Democratic Party. I want to speak for the American Party, and I believe that is what you and I both agree on. Thank you for tuning in to News Rocky today. We'll see you tomorrow, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. from the downtown Norwich studio, Forward TV, bringing to you each and every day. Loving what we do. We'll see you tomorrow in the ring.